let me get started here. So, Fool by Ben Rovik specifically, and sponsored, of course, by choiceofgames.com. Definitely fun little things we've done in the past with Game with Grace and Shanna Lee, of course. But yeah, Act 1. They'll have me whipped for speaking true. Thou'lt have me whipped for lying, and sometimes I am whipped for holding my peace. I had rather be any kind of thing than a fool. Which, fair enough. Not me. Gotta be true to thyself. Act 1, Scene 1, The Festival. This spot of earth shall be your stage, you decide. 'Tis a tuft of grass behind the public house, glistening with spilt ale. It is hardly ornate, as stages go, though the denizens of Blingsley have done their best to decorate it for you. The passing horses have contributed a surprisingly neat row of steaming footlights, whilst a drunkard marked out center stage most ably with the liquid breath. You press your toe into the green square. Thoughts erase. I must be a loon. I'm not nearly rehearsed enough. Here is where it all begins. I'm finally going to show them what I'm capable of, or whatever happens, give me strength. What's our choice? I'm going to be choosing for the most part, but if there's something that I'm not sure or I think it'd be great for having other people to jump in, please just feel free to, jump in and say, hey, you should choose number 4, number 3, number 2, whatever, that sort of thing. I think I'm going to go with whatever happens, give me strength. I personally am a theistic person, so this sounds almost like a prayer. It's like, okay, I have no idea how this is going to go, but hopefully, you'll give me strength through it. So that's the way that I'm going to play it off. So I don't know if my music's too loud or not for you guys. Seems okay. Maybe a little lower. All right. A feeling inside steadies you, plus phlegm. So from what I understand, actually I'll even show you the stats. So you have a character sheet, and so depending on how you choose and what your stats are, depends on what you can actually do later on. So there's blood, melancholy, phlegm, and bile. Blood fosters optimism. So these are based on the old concept of the humors, which are that's where you get the idea of being a melancholic, somebody who's kind of dour or thoughtful, being a phlegmatic or choleric, which is choleric is somebody who's like quick to be aggressive or fight things out and everything like that. What's the other one? Choleric. I can't remember. Anyway. But yeah, so melancholy foments gloominess, thoughtfulness, worry, and care. Phlegm engenders tolerance, reserve, stoicism, and control. And bile sparks ambition, temper, vengefulness, and drive. We also have a couple other things. So the different things like what's your repertoire, your conditioning, whether you have endurance, whether you're witty, whether you're wise, whether you can do things like magic tricks and everything like that, juggling. And yeah, so it's basically like a Dungeons and Dragons character sheet. You also have your different reputation abilities, and you have your different relationships in general. And so yeah, that's the jazz. So we'll continue. The 4 humors ebb and flow through the bodies of all God's children. As a natural philosopher knows, any natural philosopher knows, their proportions in human tissue change many times in the course of a single day, let alone on the lifetime trek from diapers to dirt. You've certainly felt them all. Sometimes blood surges through your passages, bright and warming, the humor of the reckless dreamer. Sometimes 'tis melancholy you spy, shrinking along like chilled treacle, the humor of the conscientious worrywart. Sometimes bile scorches through like a druggist's tonic, the humor of the aggressive striver. And other times phlegm settles atop your jangled nerves like a surgeon's plaster, the humor of the tranquil observer. Standing in the grass, you think afresh how fine it'd be to achieve a pristine balance and be unerringly ready for action or caution, lashing out or letting go, as suits the moment. But, as with most things you've observed in 16 years in a predominantly unfair world, the golden mean looks more like alchemist's iron the harder you examine it. It's good. Well, what of it? Let your humours slosh how they may. You've resolved the world will see you with fresh eyes this St. Grunion's Day. Today, you will finally show the public what you have worked so hard to... What are you wearing? You turn to see 3 Hutchins children staring at you, more specifically at your costume. The eldest daughter carries her skepticism openly, like a drawn blade. You look like a fool, she says. It worked. You glance down at yourself with satisfaction. You're a bit proud of your homespun motley, especially the signature item you've decided on. Here's a good question. What do you think my signature item should be? The ass hat with a donkey's floppy ears with 2 jangling bells. Oh, I don't know about that one. Oh, wow, we have a lot of choices. The scepter ornamented with grinning Comedia mask on one side and weeping Trageda mask on the other. The spectacles with great green lenses comically oversized for my face. The cape wildly striped like an overachieving rainbow. The harlequin tunic, diamond pattern around my chest and back with a belled skirt. The pantaloons, bright and billowy as a desert concubine's. Oh, interesting. Kind of like a genie's pants. The belt, vibrantly dyed leather with a huge buckle carved like a winking face. That's pretty funny. The shoes made of fine, bright flannel with curlicule toes with a bell on each tip. The gloves, pure white, so every move of my hand catches the eye. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm kind of leaning towards either the scepter the harlequin tunic, the pants, and the belt. Any thoughts? I'm thinking the scepter. I like the idea of having a scepter, not just for fools, baton kind of thing, but, if I ever need to bash somebody up across the head. It's like, stop it, idiot. I like it. I'm going to go with that. So the scepter is what I'm going to choose here. The scepter took some doing, and no mistake. To make sure you had it ready in time for the St. Grunion's Day festivities, you scrimped every extra farthing for a year and haggled a traveling craftsman down to my price. Fashioned it myself over many late a night. Talked a craftsman the next town over into doing the work gratis. With my comeliness, charmed a young admirer in town into helping me. Or combed the local lore about symbology. Symbology is not a word, for the record. Symbolism of few fools to commission a design to my specifications. That is something that I probably would do myself at some point. Dr. Craftsman. Probably would have fashioned it myself, too. I'm going to go with fashion it myself. Ooh, stagecraft. So I got boost in stagecraft. It was hard going for several weeks and your parents chasing you for being too drowsy to do much good on the farm. But the end result was as high quality as any gilder's work. Your talent for making and mending may come into play on stage and off. Stagecraft. Just curious what the stagecraft actually does. Doesn't really show. Okay, that's fine. Onward! The young Hutchins children are picking at each other's noses, and the daughter is casting her eyes elsewhere. Best to act quickly if you want your audience to stay. What ho! Well met. You're just in time. Pardon, I'm not ready. Mark me! Or, arrange thyselves, peasants, and prepare to be dazzled. No, I think this one is probably what I would do. What ho! Well met. You're just in time. You leap over the earthly footlights onto the tuft of grass, your scepter emoting faithfully in all directions. Their gazes lock back onto you, giving you a jolt of vigor plus blood. You've never performed before, so the whole landscape of presentational possibilities stretches before you. Some rascals divert audiences with their quick wit. Other fools make them thoughtful with sageous commentary. Some condition their bodies for feats of agility and strength. Others fill their minds with a repertoire of songs, yarns, jokes, and observations to suit any occasion. Others still focus on trinkets and techniques of stagecraft, employing invention and artistry on stage to make a name for themselves. You elect to lead with what you've spent the most time preparing. How will you begin your act? I'm probably more of a wordplay person. Tumbling isn't a bad idea, but it's simple. An illusion would be pretty cool, or a riddle. What would I have done the best? I think my primary skill is wordplay, so I'm going to go with what I think I would do, so that I can, this is me playing as if I were an actual jester. So let's give it a go. Let's give it a go. Oops. And begin. Forgive me, my royal Hutchinsness, you say to the daughter, stifling a yawn as you bow. I was up into the wee hours, helping my cousin, the shepherd. Do you know my cousin? She blinks at you, rubbing her arm with her hand. No. You frown. I'm surprised. He's out standing in the field. But no matter, you continue, noting as a handful of others stop behind the Hutchins trio to listen. I was up in the mountains with him all last night because his prize milk cows broke their ties and fled somewhere up there. Oh my, she says, smiling uncertainly. Oh my, I'm in trouble, you repeat in a forlorn voice. That's what he said on the mountain that night. I'm really up to the peak without my cattle. Young Mistress Hutchins is a perfect foil as you continue, stifling laughter and striving for dignity as her siblings giggle at her hip. No help at all. About a dozen people have stopped at your pungent corner to see why everyone else has stopped. Your countless hours spent twisting and turning words into your head seem to have amounted to something. They don't mind listening to you talk, plus wit. Your energy has only increased now that the audience is forming, and your mind is flying. You're particularly keen to keep the audience engaged as certain faces in the crowd catch your eye. Comporting myself well here might improve my prospects with one of these handsome young men. If I continue to impress, I might make a better showing with one of these winsome maidens later on. Keen as I am on men and women alike, I see a number of souls out there whose attention I would happily cultivate. I'm not much moved by romance, but can envision success on stage, building the esteem and friendship some of these souls will show me in life. I'm less interested in the romantic side of things, personally. So I'm going to go with not moved by romance much, so... As one more young farmhand, most souls in the neck of the kingdom of Brenton would scarcely give you a second look. But as it becomes known the talents you've cultivated, who knows how celebrated you could be? You marshal up your attention to the task at hand. How to keep the throng intrigued, perhaps by demonstrating something else you've rehearsed. A saucy poem, needling the audience, an impromptu painting, a mock sermon, a quick dance. A mock sermon. Yeah, I kind of like being like a little bit on that, even though I'm, obviously I'm a Christian and everything like that. Doing a mock sermon would be fun. Let's do it up. Let's do it up. See what happens. Hopefully it's not too crazy. You elect to show them your range by demonstrating something quite different than you've worked on. Brethren and sisters, you say, affecting the breathy, half-whispered cadence of an overzealous priest. We gather here to honor the holy festival of St. Bunyan's Day. St. Grunion, says one of the Hutchins children, unsure if it's an appropriate smile. In faith, you ask, incredulous, not St. Bunyan's Day? I thought this pain in my soles was a festive miracle. Perhaps it comes from from boots being too snug. But be that as it may, St. Onion's Day is a great time of joy. Not St. Onion, the child says, giggling out loud now. In faith, you say again. Your singular focus on the Hutchins children is in the midst of a now significant crowd gives the event a voyeuristic feel the audience does not seem to mind. But if it is not St. Onion's Day, how dost thou explain the celestial breath that hath filled my throat or nose ere since the midday meal? You ate something reeking, blurts out the middle Hutchins child, sending the young ones into a fit of stifled laughter. The older daughter shushes them, trying not to smile. In faith, you say, bigger than ever. You waggle an accusing finger at them. I perceive the truth now. It is St. Helion's Day, and no mistake, for I am beset by young wags. Whatever festival it may be, we would be well rewarded to consider how best to celebrate it. With wine and an honest dice game or two, certainly, you drawing some startled amusement from the crowd, but also with the contemplation of the event itself, of the original event. My brothels and sissies, I ask you to think back to the miraculous and sacrifices that made in the days of St. Mutton. As you celebrate on this day, think to yourself, in faith, what means this to me? Rewards await those who do. The crowd is a mixture of smiles, conversation, and disapproval. You have stirred some thought in them with a provocative portrayal. Your easy openness took the sting out of what could have been scandalous representation. See, this is what I was hoping for. I'm a bit willing to kind of push the envelope on things and potentially, make a little bit of a controversy, shall we say. Your long sleepless nights musing how performance could make audience think led you to this point, and you do not feel disappointed in the potential. Plus sagacity. I think that's pretty reasonable, at least for me. Before you can press forward, a familiar voice rises up from the crowd. That's my friend there. Luca, a long-haired youth, only a year or two older than you, points and waves. Having previously known you only for your skill at hefting hay bales or netting eels, it is no great wonder that the farmhand seems so taken by the idea of you on stage. You are just preparing a jibe to incorporate his interjection into your performance when you see him push to the front of the audience, hand raised. Heaven preserve us. He's not going to make a request, you realize. He's going to make a request, you realize. This should be good. You have spent years cultivating skills on your own, but you're far from proficient at all things bards and rascals might be asked to do on stage. Your mind centers on one particular offering you would not be prepared to attempt in public. Do not ask for some feat of bodily mastery. Ask not for some artistry or sculpted trick of the stage, I prithee. On my life, do not bid me conjure some obscure scrap of melody or verse. What would I be the least likely to do on stage? Sing, perhaps? Sculpted trick on scan. Probably this one, maybe. Do not ask for some. I think I wouldn't mind that one after, but okay. Let's try some artistry or sculpted trick of the stage. I might be able to pull this one off more than this one, so we'll go with that. Let's see a little flash then, Luca Cause. A spectacle from the new hero of the stage. The crowd murmurs and looks expectantly at you. You make a show of cracking your fingers, buying yourself time. Players and machinists bring spectacle. Why should I have to do the same? No way around it. It is a marvel in steel and silk that they want. If it's a marvel in steel and silk they want, you have much to offer. But the crowd is waiting all the same. What's a rube to do? I'll stay composed and placate Luca before continuing as planned. Let me embrace disaster. They might enjoy it. Best to simply admit that I haven't the skill and move on. Or discredit Luca. What would I do? I would probably try and embrace how terrible it is. Go with the flow. Always say yes. In improv, because I've done improv and everything like that, the best way to build, to keep things going is to never deny that you can do something. Always add to it. So let me embrace disaster. It might be funny and we'll just go with it. If you cannot look skillful while honoring Luca's request, at least you can look foolish. Witness as thy witless wonderkin works a wonder, you declaim, moving your hands across your face in a possibly dramatic fashion. Before your very eyes, I shall make an object disappear. You wander toward the audience. An honest coin. Who will vouchsafe me a single honest coin? After some uneasy laughter, a member of the crowd hands you a large copper piece. You leap back onto the stage and hold the coin between your fingers, letting it catch the light. Marvel now, as I make this coin disappear. You drop your dramatic pose and sink into a slouch. Barmaid, you drawl, holding the coin out to imaginary wench. Though a handful of onlookers seem disappointed that you could not deliver, your persona is performance enough for the rest, including Luca. The courage to fail carries the day, plus blood. Nice. You twirl your scepter and press on with your performance. For years you have longed to be on the stage, and for just as many years your parents have informed you what a doltish dream it is. Life on the farm, a few hours' walk outside of the hamlet of Billingsley, may lack glamour, but it has the singular advantage of being the only life you have. And the kingdom of Brenton's, great unwashed, yourself included, as your parents are fond of pointing out, do not get to choose the lives that they lead. Then again, you muse, as another joke lands and the audience rises up with laughter. With enough talent and enough good fortune, perhaps an unwashed like myself can clean up a bit. I'm going to change the music here for a second. Boop, boop, boop. You are nearing the end of your prepared material when a noisy clatter behind you attracts your attention. You flick a glance over your shoulder and are startled to see a thickly built man stumbling towards you. He is partially armored, like a knight whose squire left in a huff just before the joust. Boiled leather greaves and boots in the dark green of Ponteroy province deck his stout legs, and a chainmail cowl rests on his head and neck. But his torso is quite scandalously informal, in a long woolen undershirt. You remember him in a flash. Sir Jaundice, maybe. An itinerant knight who joined a provincial campaign against Flemish spies a year ago and lingered in the area after the fighting was done. It does not escape you that he has a dirk sheathed at his waist and holds a wicked mace low at his side. Oh my. There you are, Jaundice says, eyes narrowing. There is a bilious unsteadiness. There's a bilious unsteadiness into his movements, and you notice spatter of wine across his shirt. There you are, Fontebelli. He advances. The crowd shuffles away from you. You take a step back as well, hands raised. Sir, my name is not Fontebelle. Jaundice spits on the ground and continues to advance. You are the man, Fontebelle, he says. Firstmost, I am not known as man or woman, and I may be a man, but that's clear. I am a dude, so I may be a man, but my name is most assuredly not Fontebelle. They call me Zell. Should I go Zell or Zellazel? Zellazel. Zellazel, which is a far cry from Fontebelle, by my reckoning. The crowd titters nervously. You realize that in their eyes, this encounter is still part of your performance. You are, however, far from certain that Sir Jaundice is a trustworthy scene partner. Enough, scamp, the knight says, planting his significant feet and jabbing a figure in what, for the sake of argument, can be called your direction. You have wronged me, and you must answer for it. What have I done, prithee? If thou art insistent that I should answer for it, at least let me know the question. I edge away, ready to flee. You are in the wrong, sir, and I hope you will explain yourself. I'm truly sorry for your trouble, but I know not what of you speak. If thou art insistent I should answer for it, at least let me know the question. Not sure I understand that. What have I done, prithee? That's probably what I would say. What have you done? He sneers. You expurgated my dog, thou wretch. You blink. I'm quite certain I would have remembered that. You deadpan, pleasing the audience. That one was for free. Sir Jaundice kicks a clod of earth at you. Villain! My dog was at my feet when I reclined some hour and a half ago. In my alert slumber, for I was asleep with eyes cocked, I saw you approach and heard noise of the barking. I know 'twas you, for I saw that scepter glaring at me with envy for my companion. I demand you relinquish my hound at once, sire, or taste my blade. He hefts his mace with a bloodshot glare. The terror. You scarcely know what to think as you look at him, unsteady as a seasick whale. If ever a soul were a ripe target for buffoonery, it is this lubricated oaf with a concocted saga of canine intrigue. Your audience is enthralled with the real-life melodrama unfolding before them. Like as not, if you could beclown him with suitable skill, the tale of your antics would be long retold, winning you a degree of local renown. However, a mace shows no prejudice against being swung by an oafish hand, and is just as inclined to splatter a clever skull as a dull one. Aggravate the knight, and your first performance may be your last. The energetic blood in your veins spurs you forward. What will you do? I must be ready to protect myself. I must entertain my audience. I must calm this drunkard. I should flee. Calm. Make fun of the guy or calm him. I feel like I'm the guy who would at least try to be diplomatic with the dude and then be ready to, like, beat him up. So I'm going to do, I must calm this drunkard. But how? I will subdue him by force. I will reason with him. If I keep my composure, perhaps I can fashion a way to help him. I will faint dead away, for he cannot stay enraged and unconscious. Adversary. That's hilarious. I like that. But I think I would keep my composure and try to help him. That's probably what I would do. So, I'm just going to try something real quick here. Sorry, I was just changing people's characters a bit. I don't like the Nega Scott for some reason. Okay. This is a time for caution, not gambles, plus in melancholy. No need for violence, knight, you say, raising your hands. The notion of a lonely mutt roaming the fen without the noble master, his noble master, troubles me to the core. Lies, Fontabelle. On my honor, and then some. I know not where your dog may be, but I will help you find the creature. Survive your first performance. Oh, I got a... You probably didn't see that achievement, but I survived my first performance. Tell me, thou battle-proven brave, you say, crouching down in the grass. You find a tall, thick blade and pluck it with a jerk. Is your animal fond of chasing ducks? Sir Jaundice blinks, shifting his grip on the mace. Indeed. You hold the grass flat between your thumbs, raise it to your lips and blow. The resounding squawk delights the Hutchins children, and sounds for all the world like a lazy mallard kicking its flippers in a warm pond. Shall we go over and flush the beast out? Sir Jaundice looks thoroughly nonplussed. Your calm demeanor aches with sincerity, and your tool seems to strike him as useful. The crowd seems disappointed at the notable drop in tension. It worries you not. You would much rather risk losing their interest than your hide. Fontabelle, Zelazel? The knight corrects himself, all the fire in him giving way to weariness. You're all I have. Lord, I hope not, for your sake, you say, taking a step closer to him. I miss my dog, he says, wiping a dusty hand across his face. Fontabelle, I swear I do. I believe you, Jinn of the bottle. You move up close to him so he can see your face and smile. I truly do. He heaves a sob, his eyes dry and his nose starting to weep. He looks as if he's about to fall asleep on the spot without a rage to drive him. I'll help you find your dog. We'll help you find your dog. Let's find you a spot to rest. Yeah, maybe get the crowd in it. If he's lost his dog, let's get everybody in on it. What say you, you frivolous sods? You shout, turning to the crowd. Working as one, do you think we can plug the dog-shaped soul in our neighbor's heart? The crowd cheers, and a quite surprising percentage of them step forward to help. Come on, Sir Jaundice, you say. We've got a mutt to find. You hand him the piece of grass. He attempts to blow it, but somehow licks it instead. There's a smattering of applause as you lead the gaggle of Samaritans in their sojourn with your one-time enemy. You hear the appreciative murmurs of how well you diffuse the situation. You explore Billingsley together for all of 5 minutes before the drunkard is practically snoring on his feet, giving you no end of opportunities to level good-natured quips at him. With the help of two of your comrades, you set him next to a stone wall, fast asleep, his weapons of war about him like stuffed toys. Do you think he even had a dog? You wonder. Oh, do you think he even has a dog? You wonder aloud to the crowd, gazing down at him. You receive a number of handshakes and compliments, including Luca, before the crowd finally disperses. Yes, we were a good guy. I like it. Good guys are good. Your audience gone, you do your level best to recall you best to recall the quiet acclaim you've heard them discussing amongst themselves. Both your skills as a performer and the surprising deftness of your conduct with a knavish heckler, plus a renown. If you keep this up, you may build some kind of reputation for yourself. Speaking of which, I'm just curious what my stats are right now. So I have 52% blood, 48% melancholy. I've got a lot more phlegm than bile. So I'm not necessarily super hot-tempered, which is cool. I'm equally sageous and equally witty. A little bit low on my stagecraft because of what I chose, but that's actually probably a good thing. I'm forgettable, but I'm still got a little bit of stuff. Cool. All right. Good to know. So I bumped up my stats a little bit. Onward! The skies are expansive as you walk, the sunset before you making you squint. Billingsley behind you is still humming with activity, and yet for all its seeming size and bustle, you know that in the entirety of the Kingdom of Brenton, 'tis closer in scale to your average beehive than, say, the mighty metropolis of Hondelet, where King Saul IV reigns. Such a vast world you inhabit, and you, so small a mote within it, fit to be snorted into and sneezed out of your maker's nostrils at any second. And yet, mote though you are, a grand dream has held on within you ever since you were a stripling. The dream took root when, against your parents' wishes, you ran with other children to see the travelling players who had set up a wagon in a meadow near your farm. More than their ramshackle finery, you remember the way the players commanded the attention of their audience, and their raucous portrayals of kings, queens, nobles, and their fools. Those fools! Inside and outside the halls of power all at once, now in favor, now in disgrace, incredible boldness and spineless winging alike in the face of the man-gods who shape the course of nations. Whole palaces full of souls in riotous uproar, enthralled by the power of their wit and their skill. There is one fool in particular you learned of in the yarns you soaked up from the travelers and their half-understood books you scrounged on the sly in town. A true-to-life character from history who always struck your fancy. So, who was it? Quicksilver, the treasure jester who inspired artistry and ever transcended the pettiness of the court. Vatch, the reedy rapscallion who embarrassed nobles and elevated peasants. That's always fun. Hagstack, the bawdy, jolly ringmaster whose parade of simple spectacle delighted the realm. Or Kenkel, the shrewd fool whose trusted counsel was worth 1,000,000 trinkets and twirls. That's me. I'm the guy who, in my mind, the fool is meant to take the edge off of harsh truth, but also is meant to be like a source of true wisdom and knowledge. And that's the type of fool I consider myself. Not that I'm great or perfect at that, but I hope that that's, that if ever I had a king's ear or even a peasant's ear, whoever it is, right? Peasant, any just normal Joe, that what they got from me was a chuckle, but also some worthwhile lesson. So obviously I would model myself after this Kenkel guy. Kenkel began his service in the Illyrian crown in the orchards. Vatch is my vote. Nice, okay. Where his deep botanical knowledge and gentle wit won the appreciation of the prince. From thence, stepping stones emerged to him in rapid sequence. A position in the kitchens, to serving at the royal tableside, to finally a curious hybrid of major domo and fool, whose humorous tales and meditative parables were a source of great satisfaction to their royals and their guests. No accounts cite Kenkel as the most adroit wit or cunning satirist of his age, and certainly his personal conduct was far too tame to make him a caricature in fireside tales. But whenever the Illyrian crowned counselors met, Kenkel was not consigned to the corner to waggle his bells and turn cartwheels. His place was at his master's ear, sharing his wisdom and keeping his liege well provided for. His example of how fooling can be a means towards a powerful end, rather than a be-all, end-all of life's work, has been inspiring during your inspiration during your independent training. So I got plus sagacity and plus melancholy, and minus to stagecraft. So I boosted my stats here. What was Vatch again? That Vatch was the body one? Embarrassed nobles. Oh, yes, yeah. Yeah, I kind of like the idea of, like, cutting people down. Yeah, I can see that being my second choice for sure. I appreciate it. Let's see here. I like, challenging people, but I don't like to hurt people's feelings. And so even if they have it coming, for the most part, I'll try the diplomatic route and try and, like, challenge what somebody's thinking without, like, undermining their pride, if I can help it. Sometimes people need to be cut down to size, for sure, and I'm willing to do that in the extremes, for sure. So I've got 55 melancholy. I'm just looking at my sagacity is 54%. I downed. Okay, so I'm definitely the wise fool currently. So fair enough. What other pathway could a commoner take to win such influence over the nobly born? Even great fools began simply, you tell yourself. And I'm the simplest soul I know. My parents say so ad nauseum. You scratch yourself in a sensitive area with your scepter, feeling the sunlight on your face. Today was a good day. Was a good beginning, warts and all. Perhaps tomorrow will be even better. We shall see. I like it. Act 1, Scene 2, The Homestead. Okay. Go slop the hog, your mother says. She thrusts a bowl of potato peelings into your arms and goes back to her baking. Your mother is perpetually aggrieved, so humorless she can't even get a rise out of her yeast. Oh, that's good. I like that line. Loaves dense as cannon shot are all that remains after her wrangling with the leavening, and your guts, and those of your family, pay the price. I said go! She bellows, slamming her hands against the table. Flour lifts into the air and hangs about her face like a cloud of gnats. Saints alive, Zelazel, but you hang about. You scurry towards the door, the scintillating inner monologue you had vanishing as you flee. So my mom is a bit of a, less than happy person. The midday sun presses down on you, and you feel your eyes narrow and your shoulders slump. It is hard to think that just yesterday you stood before a crowd all smiles. It is hard to cultivate your confidence, your surety of self, when there is no space for wit here, nor reflection, nor grace, nor spectacle, only toil. Sigh. Your family manages to dredge up a living year after year on this plot of hilly earth a few hours' walk from Billingsley. The soil is not much for food crops, which is just as well, because given your mother's culinary handicap, your family is not much for eating. However, your father discovered that some quirk of moisture, minerals, and sunlight makes your acreage suited to bumper crops of deadly nightshade, crab's eye, foxglove, and more of nature's fatal foliage. Ever enterprising, he established your farm as the premier supplier of thoroughly toxic vegetation to all the nobly minded souls in the region, with interest in such things: physicians, game hunters, and natural philosophers. When pressed on whether or not he was also likely supporting Brenton's assassins, murderers, horse thieves, and suicides, he was wont to answer, "Don't mind who they are, long as their coins clink." The clinking of coins being notably connected, of course, to salvation in the hereafter. So basically, my father raises poison crops. Awesome. The saving grace of selling an exotic crop to an exotic audience was that there was money to spare from time to time, and your parents, to their great credit, invested in education for their offspring. Nightshade, yeah, exactly. Sketchy. Gotta love the sketchy pops. Not for you, of course, but for your sister, McKenna, the firstborn, in an effort to increase her marriageability. You shift your hands against the bowl of potato scraps, smiling as you think back to McKenna's early tutoring sessions. Without fail, you would abandon your duties whenever the tutor came around and hide where you could listen in on the lessons. You particularly loved learning my letters and the power of the written word, picking up etiquette, manners, and courtly dance. I don't think so. Exploring engineering, mathematics, and craftsmanship. I personally am a man of many words, so I shall do the learning of my letters and the power of the written word, because that's just accurate. I actually even went to school. Originally, I went to college for professional writing, so I've taken quite a few courses in that vein of things. A few scribbled lines on a page could let a man's ideas linger through the ages. There was something so compelling about that notion of transcending time through text that you became a raving reader straight away, struggle though it was to teach yourself. I gained sagacity and wit. Yes! I'm a witty, sageous guy. I like it. It's pretty much exactly how I am. And humble too, by the way. You scratch your back looking into the bowl. You are motivated, no matter what your parents may think, just not to do this. Only so much time remains in the day, and the rest of your family are otherwise engaged. You shift your weight, deciding what to do. I should slop the hog. I'll look for father in the fields. I'll look for my sister McKenna in the barn. I'll look for my brothers Oliver and Morris at the stream. I need to practice for my next performance. I don't know what to choose here. So I have 5 choices. Allie or anybody else in the chat, you're welcome to give me a suggestion. What would I actually do? I can see it. Why not? Let's go look for my brothers. If it was me, I was always a very proper kid. I would do my chores. If somebody asks me to do something, I tend to do it. I'm not too quick to just put things off. So, but let's go and look for Oliver and Morris. I agree. That sounds like a good idea. If you don't ask me to do something, though, I probably won't do it on my own effort. So I was dutiful to the point that you asked. Otherwise, I just don't. And I'm still like that. I'm pretty bad. If somebody asks me to do something, I'll almost right away do it. But let's go look for Oliver and Morris here. Oliver and Morris have been tasked with doing the laundering you recalled. They'll likely be quite pleased with company inclined to talk. Plus for my blood. All right. I'm bold. I'm beautiful. You set off at a trot, bare feet slapping the ground. The stream is a cheerily drunk ribbon that staggers in its way across your family's lands. It widens to a clear, shallow stretch on the eastern edge of the property where convenient snow stones allow you to bash and rinse the dust and stink out of the handful of garments you each have to your name. As the shallows come into view... Sorry. As the shallows come into view, you see the laundry scattered about, with a few pieces of the great woven basket, a few sunning on rocks, and one yellowing nightshirt lording over it all. Lording it over all the rest from up on its clothesline. But there's no immediate sign of your brothers. Wherever have they gone? You come to a stop a few yards away from the loose clothes. Well, somebody needs to do the laundry. I wouldn't mind a dip if it's not too cold. Oliver, Morris, where are you? What to do? Any thoughts? I'm finishing my snack, sorry. I don't think I'd rat my brothers out, but I don't think I would do their laundry either. Yeah, let's go swimming. Screw it. If they're not working, don't see why I can't take a bit of time to enjoy the day. Your body perks up at the thought of some uncomplicated play. You roll up your pants all the way up, way past the knee, and tiptoe into the water. The cold is refreshing, not the sort of icy bite that turns feet to stumps. You practice twirling in the water, keeping your balance on the stones in the stream bed. Then you simply enjoy the feeling of stirring up cold spray with your hands and feet, grinning amid the droplets you send skyward with each new splash. You're so engrossed in your play that you don't notice the sound of footsteps and giggling until 4 figures come into view on the hill of your right. Your older brother's wide face is flushed with excitement, or at least he was until he saw you. Morris is shirtless and similarly reddened, with strange wide specks on his neck from his sucking mouth. Are there leeches in this water? Oh, God. You notice a girl with long chestnut hair peek out from behind Oliver's back, her hands clutching his upper arm. A boy with a clean-shaven head was running his hands through Morris's mop of black curls, but when the quartet noticed you, he pulled his fingers away. Zelazel? What are you doing here? Oliver says with a frown, wiping his hands on his loose-fitting shirt. Just having a splash. Did Mom send you to look on us? Morris asks, casting an involuntary glance up from the hill towards the house. You step away from the water, shaking your hands dry. Whatever liaison your brothers have arranged, clothing seems only to be an impediment to it. The girl picks up a comb that was lying near the stream. Apparently, this was the only reason they had returned, and they have other places to be. They're staring at you, uncertain how you'll react. Promise to keep their secret, threaten to expose them, charm their companions, tell them about my performance. I'm not a rat. Not when it's something inconsequential. Promise to keep their secret, threaten to expose them, charm their companions. I'll just keep their secret, I think. Your brother's faces fill with relief. 1,000 thanks, mon frère. Oh, are we in France? Oh, interesting. Says Morris, as the young man playfully hugs him around the belly. We'll make it up to you, and no mistake, says Oliver, with the gratitude that only a young man with his pants off and a grinning girl tugging on his hand can manage. I love it. Classic. And we'll still get to the washing, Morris calls out over his shoulder as he goes back into the trees with his friend. No need to worry mother or father about that. You nod and slowly turn away as they return to their rendezvous. Oh my. Remind me to do that. I need to write that down. Exclamation mark, oh my. I need a good George Takai emote. You leave the garments behind, the stream burping in your ears as you make way back to the path. Still, there's a decent bit of day before supper time. I should slop the hog. I should look for father in the fields. I'll look for my sister McKenna in the barn. I need to practice for my next one. I feel like I kind of did my chill day. You know, I should probably go and feed the pigs. You best deal with the hog now before it slips your mind and before your mother slips a dagger between your ribs for being a scatterbrain. Damn. Mom's all heart. Literally. She stabs you in your heart. Focus. You exhort yourself onward. Surprising no one, the hog eats the potato peelings that you toss into its trough. Sweat beads on the back of your neck as you linger by the pen, watching the squat animal stuff itself. You wonder if the swine cares what it eats. It can discern trash from truffles and prefers the latter, but will glean what it can from the former. It knows not what it does, it senses, it consumes, and it forgets. It does what it must while imprisoned, but longs for a truer, freer feeding, but beyond slats and wire. I think it's... In terms of animals, I have great respect and I enjoy animals and I really like them, but I don't give them higher, soul existence, I guess. Some folks are like, oh, it could be, having learned Buddhism and stuff like that. I know that people think like, hey, you could be reincarnated as an animal and everything like that, so you should give them respect. And I think there's a difference between giving an animal respect, and obviously you don't torture animals and all that crazy crap. But yeah, when it comes push to shove, I will have no problem butchering a pig or, killing a bird, a chicken or something like that if I need to eat, So I feel like our society has gotten a little bit too, I don't know, comfortable with where our food comes from because it's not, we haven't had to kill anything for ourselves. So anyway, that's my view. Anyway, but pigs are really cool. I think they have really great great stuff. And so it may be with audiences, you muse. Though diverted by casual fare, they rise to what is presented to them, embracing quality when it emerges from the flax and the dross. As, by grace, one day they may so embrace you. Thank ye, hog, you say with a bow, for stirring my reflections. The beast honors you in turn by flinging itself into mud and splattering you up to the shin. You snatch up the empty bowl and give it your back. The ancient sun is shuffling down toward the horizon as you finish the chore. Time for supper, you groan, your unenthusiastic belly harmonizing with a gurgle. You are the first one back to the house. You fall into a jog when you get close. It will feel good to get in and out of the heat. Your mother steps into view in the front door, undoing the ties on her apron and squinting as she surveys the various paths back to the house. She catches sight of you. Come, set the table, she calls out. McKenna is the first to enter after you, carrying with her the uniquely miasmal stench that only working in the barn with its with all its toxic crops can bring. Oliver and Morris dashing together a few steps in front of you, in front of your father, who glares at his sons, but characteristically says nothing. "Someone get the tea on," your mother calls out, pointing to a hook over the hearth. "You didn't have the water going already," your father mutters. Haven't I got enough going as it is? A full meal for you 4 ingrates and 2 types of pie besides." "That's something," he admits, pinching off a bit of the rim of a pie shell and tossing into his mouth. She levels a wooden spoon at him like a rapier. "You with your hands caked in soot, pawing the pie before anyone's had a turn at it." "I'm a naughty one," he winks. "Rapscallions like you get a rap on the knuckles. See if they don't," she says, managing a kittenish attitude as she threatens him with bodily harm. Like the tides, your parents' discourse is constantly awash between open aggression and equally open lustiness. Wow. With a thoroughly unwholesome tide plane in the middle, where anger and attraction seem to reinforce each other. You set the last of the trenchers down on the table in front of Morris and studiously ignore your parents. No one seems inclined to get the water on for the tea. "I guess we're not having tea." "I'll take care of that. I set the table, someone else do. I'll take care of it. I'm the guy. Somebody asks, I'll do it. That's the way I am." It's no trouble to drop a few dipperfuls into the kettle from the rain barrel and quietly hang it on its hook. The meal is a quiet and businesslike affair. More like shoveling fuel into furnaces than savoring a repast. You choke down your last piece of bread and clear your throat. Several of their eyes flick up to you. "Anyone care for a bit of a song?" "So, you'll never guess what Oliver and Morris were doing this afternoon." That would be so funny. "I wanted to tell you what happened yesterday." "Thanks, Mother, for the meal. I've got a bit of a trick to share." "What should I do?" "I'm sure I would thank Mom for the meal." Your mother blinks. "Well, fine. Yes." She doesn't seem to know how to respond to an unironic compliment coming from you. It was the polite thing to say, regardless of how she responded. You reassure yourself equally. "Pie?" she offers, bringing out the 2 dishes. "The pie is thoroughly passable, though you do find a bumblebee baked into the syrup. Godspeed, honest traveler," you salute. You eat it, and privately regret the choice. McKenna snorts at you like a mare as the meal ends at the table is cleared. "Always currying favor with someone or another, aren't you?" she says. "You think you can say a few kind words here and there, and it will somehow raise your prospects for a successful life? Let me know how that stratagem fares." Before you can answer, your mother shoos you and your siblings out of the house. "Be on with you. Talk in the open air, it's better for you," she says. You see the look on your parents' faces, and none of you feel any desire to see you stay and see what happens. No. Yeah, why don't you kids go out and play? So wrong. It's a temperate night with plenty of moonlight. As your family disperses yet again, you feel a desire to sit and think. There's a non-toxic willow at the peak of the hill at the western edge of the property, and you make your way there towards it. Was yesterday of any consequence? A few dozen minutes in front of a few dozen chucklers, satisfying though it may have been, hardly seems like the basis for a new life. What happened yesterday won't matter, you ponder as you climb carefully into the tree. What happens tomorrow and the day after that? That's what'll have bearing. The question is, how much of that can you control? Fate is shaped by the stars, and your parents have never let you forget how the skies greeted you for your birth. There's a bit of verse for children like you. The charms of a cherub, eyes eager and bright, the nemesis star renders void all their light. A husband may hope, and a mother may dream, but the nemesis star passes judgment, judgment supreme. Star-crossed babe, the skies pronounced thy doom. Ill fortune dog you till you fill your tomb. Uplifting. Thanks, Mom and Dad. You shift your weight against the tree trunk, looking vainly for a spot without a knot in your back. You have felt the oppressiveness of your fate keenly many times, in no small part because, it seems, your parents cannot see you without their disappointment writ large on their faces. But perhaps life's ceaseless goading, the dissatisfaction that hangs like a burr on your sleeve, have made you what you are. Perhaps a looming, dark future has driven you to think more deeply about your dreams than any soul of your age and station ought to. You think afresh about the ill path that spheres have set out for you. I can't move the stars any more than I can drink the ocean. If all is preordained, am I even alive at all? The celestial bodies sway not me with their gravity. I will gladly take whatever light the stars have bestowed on me. It's probably what I would say. If I was the 16-year-old that this character is currently, then I'd probably say, I can't move the stars anymore. No, that's not. Celestial bodies have no sway on me with their gravity. Yeah, I'm going to go with this one. I will gladly take whatever light the stars have bestowed upon me. It should be difficult to look with good cheer on ill fortune, but, in fact, it has made you resolved to be more grateful for each moment. If the arc of your life is to be dark, then every flash of pleasure or light is a surprise, a boon to be celebrated, while it lasts. I agree, to some degree. When I'm well, that's how I agree with it. Zelazel? You open your eyes at the voice. Luca the farmhand is just a few steps away, squinting toward you. What ho! He calls out, his golden hair swinging as he waves. Fine night! Indeed, you call back, a touch miffed at having your solitude interrupted. Just enjoying the moonlight, eh? He says, tilting his head. You incline your head in a non-committal agreement. What keeps you out so late, you ask. I thought you'd be home snug in your cot. He comes closer and holds out a burlap sack, quite proudly. Foraging, he says. The sack is full of brown-capped mushrooms of all sizes. Twilight's the best time for it. Your father said it'd be all right. Watch out, he's probably thinking how much he'll save on wages if you poison yourself. Oof. Clever. If I looked for mushrooms in the dark, I would be wont to have 2 viper bites and no boots by the time I came home. Well, enjoy. Yeah, I'll do the clever one. He laughs. I'm quite sure not. A breeze blows through the branches. He clears his throat. I quite enjoyed what you did yesterday, he says, looking straight down. Good Sir Jaundice was not nearly so pleased, you say. It's truth, he says, shaking his head. You were far kinder to him than his just deserts deserved, I'd say. You shake away the memory. I am glad you saw me, even if no one else on this estate did. I'm ever so glad I did, since I hardly think I'll see you tread the stage again once you leave. Curious statement. You look at him, and apparently your eyes form into question marks, for he elaborates immediately. For Duke Rufino's court? Duke Rufino? Luca blinks. The Duke's couriers were traveling the festival all day, announcing that his honor is seeking tumblers and japesters of all sorts. Food, lodgings, wardrobe, all of it provided. My dear Cuz Mabeltham packed a jug and a loaf and beat feet there then and there. and her only talent is making duck sounds, and only when wet. You stare. She does manage a good likeness, he admits. You're saying there's actually a call for courtly performers not 2 days' walk from here? This sounds thoroughly fabricated. What makes you think I would leave the farm? Incredible, Luca, I could kiss you. No, I'd be probably the first one. Yes, indeed, he says, nonplussed. I would have thought you'd seen them. Truth be told, you didn't see a lick at the festival. You spent the whole morning before your performance stretching, vocalizing, and stress urinating. At any rate, if you do go to Duke Rufino's, say hello to our Mabeltham, Luca says. He hesitates, then pecks you on the cheek. Ugh. And do your old life proud, he whispers. You stare after him as he leaves. The whole affair smacks of misinformation, or serendipity. Is this your best opportunity to give the lie to your dark stars, or just one more opportunity for ill winds to dash you against the rocks? Night is upon you, and with it what feels like a grand decision on how to proceed. I need to learn more. I will go tonight. I will tell my parents that I intend to go. Yeah, I kind of have to at least let them know. You do not relish the prospect of facing them with such news, but it is the best, clearest course to take. Let me draw up my courage here for a time, you think, leaning back against the tree. You creep back through the starlight to a dark home, your brothers snoring in the grass outside, as is their way on clear nights, despite your mother's protestations, and carefully take your place in bed. It is a long time before sleep overtakes you. Your house is already starting to buzz with activity by the time you wake, stretch your face, and head towards the table for breakfast. There's not a good opportunity to catch your parents' attention in the bustle of the meal ending, so you decide to spend a few hours out in the fields before trying to wrestle one or both of them away from their duties. A morning digging up hemlock plants and separating the leaves, flowers, and roots into separate sacks leaves you panting with either exertion or asphyxiation. You can scarcely wait to find out which. You take the sacks over to the barn for processing and use the opportunity to return to the house on the off chance, at least, of your mother is at liberty. To your arguably good fortune, your mother is cooking lunch and your father is mending the thatch on the roof. You only now realize just how daunting the prospect of addressing them together is. He catches sight of you. What have you been up to then? What have you been doing then? He calls out. The hemlock? You start. Yes, Papa. How'd you know? You smell of parsnips. You're a mess for digging them out without crushing the roots, he snorts. Come get a drink. He comes down the ladder and ducks into the house. You follow him in. He takes a drink right out of the water dipper, and as you enter, offers you one. You decline, and he sits rubbing his legs. Your mother is stirring something in the kitchen with great ferocity. Mama? Papa? There's something I'd like to raise with you. You begin. They look at you in silence, half listening. You know that I love you more than anything, don't you? I'm leaving to have the life I deserve at last. I recently learned about a remarkable opportunity and wanted to see what you thought. I wanted to let you know about a chance I'd like to pursue, even though it means leaving. If I disappeared one day, would you even notice? I think I'd try and be more tactful. I wanted to let you know about a chance I'd like to pursue, and even though it means leaving. Yeah, you gotta say it straight out. Gotta say it straight out. There's a long silence after you lay out what you've learned, and your reasons for wanting to take the step. Your mother smacks her lips and pushes a wisp of hair out of her face. You're too trusting by half, Zelazel. I know it's your nature, but a little cold-blooded caution would do you better in times like this. Agreed. But your father continues regarding you closely. You aren't asking our permission. You take a breath. No, sir, you say as calmly as you can. How do you like that? Your mother says, covering her mouth. Your father looks down at the table. You're a damn fool, but at least you're walking on your own feet for once. Wish you'd show half the grit and work that benefits someone other than yourself. You open and close your mouth, not sure how to respond to the backhanded compliment. Or was it an appreciative insult? Wisp, child. Go if you're going, he says, pushing himself to standing. Get your things. You obey, taking a moment to wrap up some possessions from your trunk into a blanket. With a small smile, you also withdraw your scepter. Yeah, my scepter. The fool's scepter of all things. As you finish, your mother blindsides you with a forceful hug. You and your notions, she sniffs, straightening your sleeves. She turns away. Your father nods, and you nod back as you walk out the door. Achievement, I'll write when I can. Make sure your parents know your plans. Yeah, be a nice boy. I'm a nice boy, okay? Your knees are knocking as you take the hilly path away from the property. What will your siblings say? Should you look for them first? No. It was hard enough keeping your composure with the two of them. Best to move quickly. For all you know, your window of opportunity at the duchy may already be closed. Melancholy. Oddly enough, you have the sense that at least the path behind you is not closed off. If all else fails, your family will be there for you. Nice. Now, you think as you quicken your stride, let's hope I don't need them. Yeah. We're going to skip the family thing and we're just going straight on to Act 1, Scene 3, The Court. What we got here? I think I can make another one before we go. We'll try for all three, the first 3 chapters here. You need a horse. You have nothing against walking in moderation, but now that you're actually on the road, breathing the dusty air and feeling every pebble and twig under your feet, and knowing how many more miles stand between you and the court of Duke Rufnil, a horse would be most welcome. Nom nom nom. That's right. At least the afternoon is pleasant enough. The roads are clear, the sun is less than oppressive, and no highwaymen have menaced you. Yet, a positively grand outing. A ruined mule cart is upended by the side of the road. You let your footsteps slow long enough to give it a glance. The wheels are broken, the animals that pulled it are nowhere in sight, and the handful of torn sacks on its bed have clearly been rifled through already. If it was carrying a load of value, everything is gone by now. Or perhaps not. I'll take a quick glance closer so no one sees me and thinks me a brigand. I'll make a thorough search and let the fellow travelers stare as they will. I should search for its owner to see if something befell the poor soul. I can't spare the time to stop, but I'll tell the next knight I see of this. Am I going to be the nice guy this whole time? What do you think there, Allie? Should I just search for the owner? That's what I would probably pick. But anybody else can, weigh in if they want. I am a nice guy, in general. Until you really do something truly evil, then I become a truly not nice guy. Quite the opposite. So, my camera keeps shifting for some reason, sorry. It's annoying. I must search for the owner to see if something befell the poor soul. Even though I'm a jester, I am a knight at heart as well. You resist the temptation to scavenge the pitiful possessions that remain on the cart. The bolder and kinder thing to do is to seek out the owner. You dedicate a quarter hour or more to leaving the path in search of any sign of flight or struggle. How many mules pulled the cart? How many drove them? What was their cargo? And what was their destination? You stare at the dirt and blades of grass in the area as best you can to look for clues, but nothing obvious catches your eyes. You know a tale or two about expert trackers and recite them under your breath as you hunt, but it doesn't really help you observe the unobservable to any great degree. Still, when you return to the road, leaving the cart behind, you feel a surge of warmth through your passages. You tried to help, and that's what counts. As you walk, the hamlet of Hathorn comes and goes past you, such that you scarcely notice it. There's a shop your family does business with in the town, and absolutely nothing else to recommend the place. You're for more intriguing haunts and more interesting company. You put an extra energy into your stride, daydreaming of splendid halls and the elegant laughter of noble audiences in gleaming attire. Many miles later. You have many hours alone with your thoughts, and your bunions, for a brisk fanfare up ahead catches your ear. Who would be blowing a bussian? Bussian? I don't know what that is. I must know! Sorry. It's going to drive me crazy. Define bussian. The bussian, or an... oh, it's one of those... It's one of those, like, yeah, one of these things. Oops. That thing. Good to know. Good to know, good to know, good to know. Anyway, sorry, it was bugging me. Where was I? Let's just call it a trumpet. That's what I would call it. Where was I? Who would be blowing a trumpet in courtly style out here in the countryside? The road afore you is hilly, so your breath is fast in your lungs when you ascend to the next rise and see a surprising confabulation before you. 2 banners planted in the soil bear the rosy emblem of Duke Rufino's domain. A score of countrymen and their children are gathered there, attending a speaker who addresses them from atop a crate or tall stool. 'Tis hard yet to see for certain. She who speaks is a courtier girt girl. Is that like a misspell? Anyway, in a fair riding dress of red and charcoal, with a plumed cap and a silken sash. As you draw closer, you see she is accompanied by a soldier with a high-peaked helmet, who holds the long horn you heard at one side, while his sword hangs from the other. Who among you will take the fortune in your hands? The woman calls out in a fine voice. I would fain yield the stage to the first of you, who cares to contemplate a life of mirth-making and jest for his grace. Believe me true when I say to you, I will not care to watch me. I say you will not care to watch me sing or cut a caper. She apes a bit of dance with a comic face, to the crowd's delight. You press into the throng as if drawn by a lodestone. Luca told you that His Grace the Duke had dispatched his servants to seek out promising performers. What inestimable, yeah, that's right, good fortune to have come across them so early in your journey. Onward! You are just about to shout and wave your hands for a chance to take the stage, but a man nearer to the front is chosen first. You take a deep breath and render him polite applause. Along with the rest of the crowd as he ascends the makeshift stage. All in good time, all in good time. The man, who looks a farmhand about 10 years your senior, smooths out his sleeves and chuckles into his hands as the Duke's servant makes merry with him. The soldier blows his trumpet. I'm just going to say trumpet because I can't even say it. Buzzing, bizzin, whatever. And with an understandable hint of nerves, the farmhand begins to sing. Well, I have a babe with copper curls and naught but a pair of teeth. So imagine, though, my wonder when he ate a side of beef. Okay. You nod appreciatively at this choice of the song as the crowd whoops and laughs and begins to stomp their feet in time. The playful tune is brisk and in comfortable range, and the character of the bewildered father suits the man well. I'll do better, of course. Please don't let him choose him before I have a chance to try. That'd be, yeah. Perhaps I should start harmonizing with him so the Duke's subjects notice me early. I'm not a singer, though. I'm grateful he's going first so I can process before I face the gauntlet myself. Yeah, that's probably what I would do. I'm glad I'm not going first. I like to see, yeah. I like to prep myself. Your thoughts are interrupted when the courtier in the plume hat suddenly picks up a wineskin and sprays a crimson dram all over the farmhand. Even in the midst of the crowd, as you are, you flinch away from the few drops that strike you. The crowd gasps and the man on stage stops in shock mid-melody. Don't stop, dear, never stop, the Duke's servant exhorts, congenial as ever. This is what you might expect at court. Just keep smiling. The soggy laborer stammers his way back into the song, with uneasy looks at the servant and soldier. Stunned, the audience neglects to start clapping and cheering along again, leaving his voice quavering by itself in the afternoon air. Hey, Caden, how's it going, man? This is called Fool by Choice of Games. It's basically a choose-your-own-adventure book that I'm currently, reading here on the ye old Chrome. I just realized I'm covering up some of the text, so I'm trying to move it over a bit for y'all. Whatever. I'll leave it there for now. Welcome in. Yeah, so we're in the midst. So basically, this one's all about being a court jester. And so I came from a farmstead, and I've just told my parents, hey, I had the really good experience the day before, performing for the first time at the little festival or whatever. And I've heard of an opportunity to go and be a professional jester. So I'm going to do that. So yeah, we're going to be doing that. And so you're welcome to chime in or enjoy the story. It's like I said, it's a choose your own adventure. So at some point, if I don't know what I want personally, then I'll welcome everybody to throw in their 2 cents on what I should choose, and we'll go from there. So we just came across, I guess, this, apparently just like another court jester or something like that for the Duke, and they're kind of putting us through the ringer apparently, and I just found out. So so basically the court jester, or whatever this person is, the lady in the plumed hat, basically just spat her wine all over this guy. And she says, "Don't stop, dear, never stop." The Duke's servant exhorts, congenial as ever. This is what you might expect at court. Just keep smiling. The soggy laborer stammers his way back into a song, with uneasy looks at the servant and soldier. Stunned, the audience neglects to start clapping and cheering along again, leaving his voice quavering by itself in the afternoon air. "What ho, bring the horn," the Duke's woman says to the soldier, turning her back on the stage. "It sounded like you had a bit of clog there, sir." "I fear so too," he agrees, pointing at a space hand-spun from the metal mouth. "Mark me, do you still hear it?" He blows the trumpet. It's basically a trumpet, fair drowning out the hapless farmhand, who drifts silent again and stares at their backs with wide eyes. "Don't stop! Never stop!" The servant snaps at him. "Do you care to be at court or not?" Onward. "This isn't right," murmurs a curly-haired man next to you. There is much stirring and shifting of feet as you all look at the poor farmhand, whose aspect has crumpled so in the mere minute he's been on stage. I will go and sing with him, two performers in solidarity. Cruel though it seems, I understand the wisdom behind it, and will say so to the throng. I'll offer to take his place on stage. I have wit enough to withstand these courtly rigors and prove myself. I know instruments well enough to fix that horn, so I can attend to the poor performer again. There is a bit of wisdom in what they're doing, because if you're going to be going to the court, then the fool tends to be, the butt of the joke half the time. and kind of has to be, pooped on half the time. For better or worse. But let's go with the I've been a nice guy. So let's go, I'll sing with him two performers in solidarity. See what happens. Lord this babe, what to do with this baby? All heads turn to you as you advance from the crowd and stand next to the farmhand, patting your palm to the side of his back. You nod up at him and he nods down at you. As it happens, you don't know the words nearly as well as you thought, and when you make an attempt to harmonize, you wind up rather off. So all in all, it's been an embarrassing exhibition for you. Aw, bummer, I can't sing. You take heart best you can that the farmhand indeed seems greatly reassured, and clasps you on the shoulders when he finishes at last. The courtier and the soldier seems rather at loss when the song finishes. I suppose we've seen all we need to from the both of you. The courtier's offers at last, after spending an unusual amount of time locking eyes with someone in the crowd. Who's next, then? Your whole frame freezes, just like that. Have you lost your chance to serve his grace? Oh, no, I think I gave up. Ah, shucks. Uh-oh. Steady on there, a voice rises from the crowd. Your duke should be ashamed. There's great consternation in the crowd to hear such rebellious talk. You turn to see the curly-haired man who spoke some moments ago stepping forward with an aspect of high righteousness. He raises up the hopes of his less fortunate countryfolk with the search for rare talents, and the promise of luxurious accommodations and fine food, and great prestige to the lucky few chosen. But he does not mention that the life of a courtly performer is valued no different than the exotic beasts captured from jungles or sandy climes to amuse his grace, and the other drunken dilettantes in his orbit. Good Lord, you think, startled at the brashness of the youth's talk. But you can see that, as the firebrand goes on, there's a good bit of nodding and irate chatter from the knot of disappointed peasants. Even the poor maligned farmhand seems swayed. Interesting. The speech continues for some time, and indeed, you note, 'tis quite rhetorically elaborate for an impromptu fit of passion. But be that as it may, the peasants are so sorely roused that by the time he reaches his conclusion, "And will we sit here and bear it?" there's a rousing "No!" from a score of throats. By that time, the soldier and the courtier have already turned tail and run, cutting quite an undignified character as they disappear down the hill to the meadow beyond. The curly-haired man leads a perfunctory chase some moments later, and his party too disappears from sight. You stand in place, your mind churning. You know you should be consumed with grief that the Duke's representatives seem to have seen all they care to have seen all they care to of you, but something else impels you forward first. Moments later, having descended the hill, you find the half-hearted hunters led by the curly-haired firebrand have already given up the chase. There's a great deal of handshaking and backslapping for their bravery as they begin to disperse. Their leader brushes his ringlets from his eyes as you approach, clearly surprised to see you. "We seem to have missed them, the rascals," he says, putting his hands to his hips with a sigh. "Tell me truly, friend," you say, leaning close to him. "What did I just witness?" He looks into your eyes. A little smirk catches on his lips. You stare as he raps 3 times on the trunk of a massive dead elm, 2 hillocks in the other direction. The Duke's courtier and the soldier emerge from the hollow tree, heads bare and looking much younger somehow than when they were by the roadside. It was all an act, you realize. Another exemplary performance conceived by your servant, Wendell, Prince of the Bard Brood, the curly-haired youth says, with an ostentatious genuflection. And his associates, he adds carelessly. Oh, I like that, sneers the soldier, his voice light and playful. Do we have to endure the depreciations of self-crowned royalty? I did not crown myself, Wendell sniffs. My talent did it for me. You heard him, or should I say the raw embodiment of talent we're fortunate enough to know, quips the courtier. And now you're fortunate enough as well, dear Zelazel. You answer the prompt. You clear your throat, wondering what to ask these curious artists. Ask as these curious artists chuckle amongst themselves. What's the Bard Brood? Why feign at being auditors from the Duke? How oft have you run this performance? I wonder what the Bard Brood actually is. A band of broody bards. I thought that was clear enough, Wendell says, helping the soldier pull a chest from within the elm tree. I wonder what else these squirrels have stashed therein, you marvel as they open the chest to reveal bits of costume. He gives a nod to the courtier, who comes over to you as she shakes off her outer garb. The Bard Brood's a society, I suppose you'd say, for artists who don't mind a spot of trouble. She winks. I'm sure you can that writing the wrong pamphlet or staging the wrong play can send you to the gallows, if you're taking swipes at powers that be all alone. The Bard Brood helps the work get out and the artists stay safe and secret. Our crown prince here is ever so keen on secrecy, you can tell. The soldier joshes him. The soldier by this time has disrobed to his bare chest and trousers, and is reaching for a simple tunic. The one-time courtier is in a thin shift and hose, and accepts a blouse that Wendell tosses her. I'm not phased, I'm focused on learning more. The way they're mashing these fine costumes, I'll help them tend their effects more gently. There's a song reminds me of this moment, but perhaps I can impress this crew with it. Yeah, let's just focus on learning, I guess. Sorry, I got a message here for a second. Focused on learning more. Seeing as you get your own clothes on and off every day, you're inclined to take in stride the sight of bodies in a state of undress. I must know, you say, clearing your throat after a moment's pause. Is His Grace the Duke genuinely seeking performers, or are the stories about his search only taking your act as their source? Oh, no. Ruffino has real teams at work watching our fellow Brentons embarrass themselves, Wendell says, and he is seeing supplicants at his palace who care to try their luck. It's a relief to be reassured that you did not break away from your family for a pure fantasy. Have any from the Bard Brood showed their skill and sought a position in the court? Silence. You're enough of a student of human nature to know what a long pause means. You've already auditioned, haven't you? There's far better work to be done outside of a stultifying court, anyhow, Wendell says, slamming the trunk closed. This project you've experienced today, for example, skewers two different dispositive tendencies of society. The callous disregard of the noble class for the innate dignity of their lesser-born neighbors, and, as commoners, our unwholesome preoccupation with the fantasy of being whisked to a life of opulence overnight. So you raised and dashed the hopes of all those people and abused that farmer for the sake of skewering some tendencies? I know you tried to interject out of concern for what you saw, the former courtier says with a look of understanding. But you must know 'twas all under control. I'm sharing these secrets because you're the only soul yet to have discerned what you saw was theatrics, which means you have an artist's eye, Wendell says, more in tones of aged professor than a peer no more than 2 years your senior. But I certainly don't expect you to understand yet the value of the Bard Brood's work. You look at all three of them, trying to decide how you feel about the whole affair. I think they were cruel to ordinary people, and I don't mind delivering an impactful rebuke. I understand what they were trying to achieve. I'm keen to ingratiate myself with the artists like these. That's not totally true. I think they're lashing out because His Grace didn't pick them, and while I can be polite, I'm not sure they're worth my time. Do I shit on them for shitting on people? No. I think I'm just going to do... I think they're lashing out. I think they're being childish, and I don't really need to be with that. Mild and composed as you are by temperament, the pleasantries come naturally, and you discern the soldier and courtier accept your appreciative words at face value. I got a bonus for Bardbird. Cool. From Wendell's looks, though, you deduce he can see the disapproval you're hiding skin deep, and he doesn't much appreciate being judged. We should be off, says the one-time soldier, catching Wendell's eye and shooting a glance skyward. Indeed, we have another engagement this evening. Go retrieve the pennants. I'll be there anon. The other young artists bid you farewell. Wendell brushes his hair from his brow and regards you, arms akimbo. So keen you were to put yourself forward during our performance. I can tell you're keen to be put on display for Rufino's appraisers. No? You allow that it is so. Most would-be fool starts where you do, Wendell says indulgently. All I will say is that artistry in Brenton today is like as to a teeter-totter. Embed yourself in court and take the chance to make art with meaning, with kindred spirits, and the Bard Brood rises out of your reach. And spend my days impersonating noble officers and fomenting discontent in the masses instead? Wendell gives you a grin. You may not win any ribbons from His Grace, he admits, but I'll be in the first row cheering you on. The curly-haired rascal calls over his shoulder as he trots after the others. Until we meet again, Zelazel. You wave, keeping your thoughts to yourself. Assuming you aren't strung up for sedition, that is, with cause too. Aye, on the street somewhere most like, for if none of them were accepted by His Grace, how can I be expected? Indeed, I hope so, intriguing soul that he is. And you'll be in my audience next time, and you'll see what a performance truly can be. Let's be relatively kind about it. I think he's just, he got wounded. But he might be a good bard for all I know. Wendell's companionable smile stays in your memory for some time. A fellow performer with such fire and initiative, you've a feeling you could both grow from the encounter were you to meet again. So I wonder if Wendell's going to be like a rival from here on out. That would make sense. You keep mulling over the curious encounter with the Bard Brood youths as you walk into the twilight. You'd lost a good bit of daylight in this diversion, and you hope to advance as far as you can towards Rufino's duchy on your first full day of travel. But as the shadows deepen, you finally elect to make camp. If you wait until it's full dark, you might accidentally take a termite hive as a pillow, or worse. You shiver briefly as an evening's breeze goes past. You've never traversed these roads before, and apart from the familiar trek to Blingsley, this is the farthest you've ever been from home. I hope I've made the right decision. Quite the adventure for a farm-bound whelp like me. Well, here I am, no sense fretting about it now. What's before me is bound to be better than what's behind. I'm probably... Yeah, I hope I've made the right decision. Quiet doubts tiptoeing up and down your limbs. Try as you might, you cannot rub away the chill entirely. You've stopped at a bend in the road a few dozen steps from a small pond. Meadow stretches out on the far side of the road, while just past the pond is the forested edge of the joined woods. If your geography is to be trusted. A stream from the woods feeds the pond. Your ears perk up. There's a bit of noise coming from inside the woods. Music, by the cadence of it, on lute and tambourine. When you squint, you make out what is either a lick of firelight a quarter mile through the trees, or a flash of white pain caused from squinting too hard. A camp, perhaps. Light is fading all around you. Best decide where to go. Where to go? I'll march up to the camp. We Brentons are hospitable people. I'll investigate what the noise and light is all about from a distance. I'll make my own camp by the pond and keep a close eye on the woods and road alike. I'll find a piece of earth in the meadow and take the care that nature provides. Yeah, I'll go ahead and march up to the camp, see if they'll let me stay. I'm not that bold, though. I'll investigate what the noise and light is all about from a distance. Yeah, let's do that. You relish the thought of joining camp with other friendly wayfarers, but a little caution is in order here in the countryside. You got to keep a cool head if you want to make it to Rufino's in one piece, you think. I got more melancholy. Yes! Oh, let me just curious. 46 melancholy. So I'm kind of in the middle of blood and melancholy is kind of what I do. You tread carefully through the bracken as you enter the joined woods. Rather than approach the sound and firelight straight on, you slink from one tree to the next, staying out in the open as little as possible. You look down at the rustling sound, and a red squirrel is staring at you. Soft, you hiss. Its ears tilt sideways in confusion as you watch, as it watches you continue on tiptoe, ever nearer. The camp centers on a mighty bonfire, around which a quartet of women and men sit with earthenware bowls in hand. A lidded cauldron hangs on the rack over the fire, emanating sweet-smelling steam that sets you drooling. Loaves of bread and the remnants of a cheese wheel sit on a blanket a safe distance from the fire. The seated ones tap their feet or sing along through mouthfuls of food, as a tall woman standing nearby plays the lute, her fingers lively against the strings. Another pair, husband and wife by the look of them, dance to the music with more spirit than technique, waggling tambourines festooned with streamers as they do. You can't place the song, but you can appreciate the quality of the lutists playing. You take in a few final details as you peer around a thick-trunked larch. Wow. There's a covered wagon that appears to be full of wooden chests, and horses enough for all save a pair of wagon drivers. Nothing particularly ominous about the group. Now that you see them, at least you can make a more informed decision about how to proceed. Announce myself to what seems a harmless group. I'd rather not tie myself up with them. I need to stay focused on resting for my journey. All I want is a bit of food. Seems to me I can help myself without any need to trouble them. No. You gotta announce. You gotta say, hey, how's it going, guys? How's it going, eh? I'm confident that it's safe now, you decide. Plus for the blood. You step out from behind the tree and walk slowly to an open area fully visible in the firelight. Hello there, you call out. The music stops as the camp takes notice of you. You SB one of the seated men, flipping the point of his knife towards you. I'm a simple traveler, you explain, palms raised. Emphasis on the simple. I saw your fire, and you politely come to a stop as the ludist cuts you off. A traveler? A traveler? She says, looking you over. She cuts a distinctive figure, tall as a draw horse, with long hair that the white blonde of fresh butter. Are you alone, traveler? I have business at Duke Rufino's court, you nod. Several of them burst out into surprised laughter at this. A bit underdressed, aren't you, sir? One calls out. His ostentatiousness is seeking performers of all stripes, and I go... his ostentatiousness is seeking performers of all stripes, and I go to offer of myself. You say, the Inquisition starting to get a little bit of uncomfortable. The ludist frowns at you, slinging her instrument over her shoulder. I don't much trust a soul who carries himself like you do, all closed and cool, she says. Still, it's a sin to deny the hungry. She gives a nod to one of the seated women, who moves to fetch a simple loaf of brown bread. So we'll share what we have, the ludist goes on, and let you go back to the road with our compliments. The dismissal is clear. I promise you, if you think I'm dangerous, then you're the only people alive ever to feel that way, you begin. I don't believe your tale, and I don't believe you're alone, she says bluntly, and a deceitful stranger has no place at our fire. The rest of the camp is fixed on the ludist. There's no open hostility on their faces, but clearly whatever she decides, they will defer. You think quickly as the woman in motion picks up the small loaf. If I can wisely deduce who she thinks I bring with them, I can convince them I'm no threat. It may be a gamble, but if I invite them to test my performing skills, should be proof enough of my tale. Who am I to turn down free bread? I'm going to go with the wise course, I think. You quickly scan the camp for some evidence of who they might be and who they might fear, and catch sight of a straight-edged wooden frame they've erected at the edge of their camp. The tools on their belts and the array of knives each of them seems to carry close at hand seal it for you. Fur traders. And you've had trouble with other trappers, haven't you? You say, tilting your head in understanding. Many of them exchange glances. Their ludist narrows her eyes. You took the time to build a tanner's rack, even in this makeshift space, I see. So you're aiming to process your catch as soon as possible. Do you leave the area soon? Why? She asks, deeply suspicious. Doesn't matter a jot to me, you shrug. All I know about furs is that if they're still biting, you did something wrong. But I'm just trying to get a sense if this is their territory, and you're working the old poach and encroach stratagem, or your territory, and you're fighting to keep what they're fighting to take. There's a long silence. If you're afraid that I'm one of them and you still offer me bread, you say softly, I find it hard to believe that you're the poachers. The ludist lowers her instrument and stares at you for a long moment. What's your name, young one? Zelazel rhymes with I'd very much like a bowl of that, Zelazel, you clarify, jetting your chin towards the cauldron. She grins at you, shaking her head. Cheek. We haven't near so much to spare as we would if these other trappers weren't dodging our catch. She stops to spit on the ground. But take a bowl and a quick sit, since you're here. The others stand and offer hand clasps of nods and welcome, clearly reassured how the ludist is satisfied. Stew's not much, but take what you like. Young slip like him, one of the women says with a wink. How much could he eat anyway? Allow me to demonstrate, you say, to general acclaim. In fact, you do great justice to the hot meal, relishing the feeling of the hot and solid foundation in your belly, plus the conditioning. Sweet! You enjoy conversing with the trappers fireside. I assume these were like gypsies or something like that, so I wasn't too sure what was going to happen there. You enjoy conversing with the trappers fireside about the challenges they faced. You haven't much wisdom to offer, but they seem impressed that you were able to deduce so much about them with so little in the first place. You'll get the sense they'll remember this encounter even after you part ways after the sunup. The fire dies, and you gladly take an offered bedroll and a space of your own, enough removed from the trappers for privacy. Sweet. I think we did good on that one. Secure a real meal from the camp of trappers. Yes! I didn't just get bread, I got some soup. Soup and bread is better than nothing. Your thirst slaked, your hunger in abeyance for the moment, you stifle a yawn. A good sleep will help you be fresh for the day to come, but you're also aware that the closer you get to the Duke, the fewer opportunities you'll have to prepare for the single most important audience of your life. Perhaps a bit of practice, something at least that can be done in pitch black, would serve you better. I must ensure my wit is as keen as possible. Rest will serve me better. I must be prepared for any song or speech the Duke can request. Maybe I should bolster my speech and my song. I have pretty good wit already. What's my wit? Oh, it's only 54. My repertoire is minimal, lackluster. So wit is fine. My sagacity is 60%. Okay, let's try and boost a little bit here. And do a song or speech. There's no way of knowing what Duke Rufino will favor, of course, but you start by humming through all the songs that you know originated here in the Southlands, toward the coast. It does your voice good to practice sotto voice. Sotto voce. Sotto voce. Sotto voce. I don't know why I'm saying it that way. Into the starlight. You finally fall asleep murmuring the long stanzas of Worm at Sea, the great coastal epic. Your dreams are storm-tossed and quite adventurous. Plus in my repertoire. Let's see what I get. How much better? Okay, so it's okay. I got 10% for that, so that's not bad. So now I have passable repertoire, passable conditioning, passable sagacity. My stagecraft is still pretty poor, which is fine. I think I can get out of that. Let's try it out. A misty morning greets you the next day. It's difficult to drum up enthusiasm about rejoining the path on such a gloomy day, but you soldier on. If I didn't want grey weather, I shouldn't live in Brenton, as if you ever had a choice to live elsewhere. You bid farewell to the men and women of the camp before heading on your way. The road is winding and dusty, but in good repair as you get closer to the coastal lands where Rufino's duchy begins. The traffic increases as well. Where yesterday you commonly crossed paths with others a few times in an hour, now you rarely lose sight of another human soul for more than a few minutes. The passers-by have a great air of prosperity as well, from the vendors of baubles and the silks trotting by in their carriages, to the heralded knights strutting along the road in twos and threes. You must look quite the urchin, because, completely unsolicited, you are gifted bits of rolls and fruit by kindly-faced travelers as you plod your way through the day. You polish off a bun and lick your dirty fingers. Just imagine how well fed you'd be if you actually stopped to beg. It's comforting to know that there's another career open to you if foolery goes awry. It's like I must really look pretty awful if people are just handing stuff to me. So just like this skinny little 16-year-old jester wannabe. Excuse me. My throat's a little itchy. It's just before sunset when you pass an inn just off the road. Your feet ache, and the idea of loafing out of the elements is thoroughly appealing. The weather has vacillated between mist and drizzle all day. However, your complete lack of money may represent a point of contention with the proprietors of this establishment. Perhaps I could camp somewhere near and here instead. If I go in and entertain the patrons, perhaps I'll get a free room and board out of it. Can I offer to work for a night's lodging? Yeah, let's see if I can't. Let's try practicing. Let's actually ply our trade that we claim that we're going to be able to do in front of a king. If you can't do it in a tavern, then you ought probably not to do it in a castle or keep or whatever. You're excited at the prospect of playing for a fresh audience and, if all goes well, enriching yourself in the process. Blood. The inn is windowless, but because of the pervasive fog outside, it actually feels brighter in the candlelight than the outdoors. A little over a dozen people are spread across the tables or standing by the barrel bar, mugs in hand. You introduce yourself to the innkeepers, a pair of stocky, black-eyed women who seem to have no ability to blink, and explain your plan. They look at each other, and the tall one shrugs. Perform if you want, she says. If nobody likes you, they'll run you out. Thrilling, you think, with a twinge of anxiety. As it happens, the audience is far more forgiving than advertised, as long as you essentially leave them alone. Your early efforts to draw them in with witty extemporizing are met with confusion. The crowd is too dispersed for more than one grouping of patrons at a time to understand that you're trying to perform. But when you shift tactics to pub songs, the inn lights up. Been a while since we had a decent bard, an old man says, pawing at your arm repeatedly. They scarcely seem to care what you sing, as 2/3 of them are drunk enough to cheer for pretty much anything, and the final third are too busy in their own conversations to bother listening if a choir of angels descended to sing the naughty horse of Gumblegorse. In this forgiving atmosphere, you get to work your way through some material you were less confident on, entrenching it further into your mind. Repertoire. Yes. All right. So we have a bit more of a broad skill set now. Overall, the only thing I suck at is stagecraft, which is fine. We can maybe get by on the other ones. At the end of the night, you shake hands all around. The innkeepers bar the door at the end of the night and direct you to a cot in the corner. They seem pleased in their flat-faced way with the effect you had on the patrons. You munch down a slice of old ham and a dense brown trencher, tuck your possessions close, and fall into dreams of naughty horses and grasping old men. Bird song and brighter skies greet you in the morning. You stretch out your stiff legs and, with some reluctance, leave the inn behind. The plodding monotony of your journey sends you into a bit of a trance. Your mind leaps from topic to topic, freewheeling as your feet stay on course. What if horses could be made to wear great sacks around their rears, like nappies? It would certainly keep the roads cleaner. If I had more toes, would I walk faster or just need bigger boots? I think those birds are following me. Stay calm, Zelazel, just stay calm. That's so funny. If Luca's cousin Mabeltham gets a position on the basis of her duck sounds and I am denied, should I throw myself into the sea or her? She'll probably float. I think, what would I actually think? I would think more about, let's make diapers for horses. That sounds like a brilliant idea. Watch it! A shepherd barks at you as you bump shoulders. His dog barks at you as well, for good measure. You mutter your apologize and lift your eyes up again. You've got to pay attention. You blink. There, in the startlingly visible distance, is the rosy sandstone keep of Duke Rufino. There it is, you say aloud. Moat, battlements, spires, great waving flags, the whole edifice. You made it. Well, not made it, as there's at least an hour's walk before you reach the conical gatehouse you can see from here if you squint. But after so many miles of trudging, the end is undeniably before you. I'll run the rest of the way. I will not leave that place until I've made it my home. I've brought myself here, only fate can decide where I go next. I'm going to throw up. um, I don't think running would be a great idea. I've brought myself here, only fate can decide where I go next. I think it's probably the right way to go. Well, obviously you'll go to the keep first. You amend the sentiment. But only fate knows how your performance will be received by the Duke and his staff. You do your level best to embrace that uncertainty. You think of Kenkel, starting from humble beginnings and working up to the king's right hand. Today is the foundation of my future, you think, trying to keep your breathing in check. There's a sprawling town just outside the walls of the keep, stretching on towards the coast. Port Covens reads a sign as you passed. You vaguely recollect hearing the name somewhere, but had no idea it was so large. You stare down the hillside across the shingled roofs and winding streets. It must be 3 times the size of Billingsley. You suppose you need to get accustomed to crowds if you're seeking to live among the powerful. There's a bit of a queue before the high-gabled gatehouse of Duke Rufino's keep. Laborers and serving folk have their carts closely inspected by his grace's footmen before receiving grudging admission, while a separate lane of silk-clad merchants and elegant nobles on horseback are waved through with deep genuflections. You hold your bundle of possessions tightly to your chest as you wait your turn. The fortress walls are enormous, and the soaring towers of the keep beyond them higher still. Finally, a sentry is standing before you, a teal tabard draped over his shoulders and a massive pike in one gloved hand. Her conical helmet is a miniaturization of the pointy gatehouse just behind her. Her face is openly skeptical. State your business. I'm here to say His Grace. I understand there were openings for entertainers here at court. I hope that's still the case. I won't state it, I'll demonstrate it. Please let the Duke know that I am the next court jester, that his next court jester has arrived. I think probably this one. I understand there are openings for entertainers here at court. I hope that's still the case. She raises an eyebrow at your earnest expression. Ah, you're one of those, the sentry grumbles. She locks both hands around her park and calls over her shoulder. Is the steward's office still seeing scoundrels like this? A short footman looks at you briefly and frowns. I think Timshill said they are done. Timshill, she scoffs. I say he's done, if you ask me. The sentry looks at the queue behind you and sighs. Take this one to Maladoro, then. Get an answer direct. The man salutes her and gives a sharp whistle to you. He turns his back and starts walking towards the drawbridge. You blink. You rank with the hounds, then, it seems. You bow to the sentry and scurry after him, just glad to be past the gates. Yeah. Hey, I got in. I'm at least in the city. What's the worst that can happen, you know? Through the drawbridge is an immaculately maintained courtyard, crisscrossed with flat paths. Pairs of peasants work the gardens with rakes and pitchforks, while leather-armored huntsmen and burly masons stride by with haste on private errands. You leap out of the way of a pair of stable hands, leading horses at a trot off to some appointed place. The whole keep is a beehive of purposeful souls, and you're a little snail dropped in the midst of them. Well, what will be will be. You try to make yourself at peace, just imagining how your family would quite possibly cheer you on if they were here. The short footman leads you to a small door on the side of the red stone keep. The light level drops precipitously as you enter. Torch sconces are very widely spaced, and no windows reach the narrow hallway the footman chooses. You clear your throat. Did I hear we're going to meet Maladoro? Prithee, who is that? She's the She's the chief steward, he says, without looking at you. Only one of the most influential people in the entire duchy. Perfect. And who is this Timshil, who seemed to think that there is no more need for performers? Timshil? He looks over his shoulder back up to you. Aren't you from Port Covens? No, I'm a vagrant. He frowns. Tinshil's been at it for years in these parts, Duke Rufino's fool. Your feet catch on an uneven part of the stone. His Magnificence already has a fool? You think the footman nods, but he largely refuses to look at you, so it's difficult to tell. If the Duke already has a fool, why cast such a net for novices like you? You try not to let the unexpected news rattle you. Your footsteps echo oppressively. You consider how else to fill the space. Have you worked here long? Is there any chance of stopping by a chamber pot on the way? Pardon, but there's something on your back. Let's have a bit of fun with him. Quiet will suit me best. I need to focus. Should I make small talk? Am I good at small talk? I really hate small talk, but I would do it if I was nervous in this case. Let's just be nice to the fella. At least ask, hey, you work here long? It takes a moment before he realizes you're still addressing him. He frowns. Nigh on 8 years, he says. Conscripted to fight the Corsairs. Now I watch the gate. You nod at his back. Someday you might be able to say that you've been here 8 years or more besides. Of course, if you fail today, like as not that they'll press gang you. Stick a pike in your hands and point you at the Corsairs too, if they don't just toss you from the castle walls. Stop it, you tell yourself. Wendell failed his audition and survived yet. You will still do the same. You hear babbled conversations and clatter of glassware and platters in several of the rooms as you walk past. The servants' wing, you suspect. You enter a winding staircase and ascend level. Your heartbeat echoes mightily off the stone walls. Midday through the brighter hallway lined with lush tapestries, the footman stops at a door and gives a series of precise knocks at a moderate volume, as if following specific instructions. Well, you hear a throaty voice call out from inward. The footman pulls up the latch and swings it open. Begging your pardon, Chief Steward. Are you still seeing scoundrels? What? Apologies, that is, tumblers and the like. All you hear is a heavy sigh, but apparently the footman gets an affirmative gesture as he indicates for you to come forward. All right, then, he murmurs, clapping you on the shoulder. Just remember, you're the one who has to see her. You blink as he exits and latches the door behind you. Yikes. This sounds intense, very intense. The room is a small box like a friar's cell, and nearly as Spartan. A wall candle sconce and 2 arrow slits in the stone provide the only light. An empty chair faces nearly empty desk with a neat rack of scrolls on one side and an inkpot on the other. In a high-backed chair jutting with arrowhead-shaped adornments on its top rail sits... Wait, says Maldoro without looking up. The chief steward is of middle age, with steely black hair held in a bun with metal skewers. She writes a few more elegant lines with a quill, and she stands from her place behind the desk, still not meeting your eyes. Her long robes are startlingly sumptuous charcoal velvet, thick with beadwork and brocade, and every one of her knuckles seems to sport a ring. Instead of decorating her room, she chose to decorate herself, you think. And, she says, putting a final flourish on the document before fixing you with a hazel gaze. Begin. Egad, you realize a heartbeat later, she's just staring at you. Pardon me, madam. Should I start performing? I'll start immediately. My pleasure, exalted one. What manner of performance would you care to see? Honorable Chief Steward and dispensable subject to his grace the Duke, I, Zelazel, thank thee for thy gracious time, and present such talents for thy consideration as our Creator has bestowed upon me. I like that one. I'm going to do that. I would try to be as flourishable as that and wordy. Indeed, yes, very well, she murmurs, adjusting one of her rings. Not allowing yourself to be rushed helps you regain your equilibrium. Now, what to perform? A bit of acrobatics, a sleight of hand trick, a fine speech about duty and service, a joke or two. Let's try a joke or two and see where it gets us. What's her... Let me just a second. Let's start with a joke. I don't think she's going to like the jokes, but it's good to just get ourselves out there. I don't want to do the other ones. Just don't come... A sleight of hand trick. That's a stagecraft thing. Acrobatics. That's conditioning, which is passable but not great. Let's try a joke. I'm hoping that's what my wit will be. I must say, Madam Steward, I couldn't help but notice your many rings, you say with an appraising air. You know, we use a whole raft of precious stones around my family farm. I quite doubt that, she scoffs, waggling her fingers ever so slightly. It's true, hark, the garnet for capturing pike and their kin, you pantomime, struggling with the great fishnet. The sapphire for boiling our soup, you burn your tongue on a spoon. The pearl for knitting our socks, you poke yourself in the eye with a knitting needle. The hambere, you say, practically drooling. We would hang them in the smokehouse and slice them all winter long. Enough, she says, waggling her finger at you. You are unserious. No, I am Zelazel. The pleasure is exclusively mine, you say with a bow. One corner of her mouth is twisted up in what appears to be amusement. Gadzooks, but she's a tough nut, you think. Fine, just fine, she says, rapping her rings on the desk. She spins one finger in the air. Now demonstrate something else. You try to reorient yourself mentally as quickly as you can. Mentally, as quickly as you can. If she's barely reacted to your quickest wit, what else do you have that she'll like half as well? A tuneful ballad, some light ruminations on the odder claims of the ancient philosophers, and exhilarating. Let's do the philosophers, because I know that's my best. So let's try and hit her where it's good. In faith, as I contemplate the fact of being in this place with your august personage, you begin with a dip of your head, it almost feels a dream. How indeed is one to know what is real or imagined? Oh, I guarantee we are both awake for the moment, Malodoro says, clearly feeling the tedium of your introduction. So it would seem, but I will the great sage Calemis, who conjectured all of creation was a dream of incredible cunning and richness, and that whosoever encountered the solitary dreamer would look upon the face of God. All creation is a dream. Then, if all creation is a dream, then why do I still sleep myself at least 3 nights a week and have dreams of my own? The steward scoffs. How do you know that it is not your waking and that this is your dreaming? Calamus would ask, what is the immutable distinction between the realms? What hogwash! I will enumerate the distinctions by the fistful. You take on an attitude of rest and primarily listen for some minutes, containing your satisfaction as Malodoro skewers and savages the teachings of Calamus with all the relish of a hound and a decorative poof. Whenever she seems to settle, a brief hypothetical is all it takes to spiral her up again. You were wise enough to conjecture the steward would enjoy exhibiting her intellect and dismantling one of history's lesser theorems. At last, she seems to become conscious of time again, so when her last argument winds down, you bow your head and let a moment of silence hang in the stuffy air. That'll do, she says with a sigh, taking a seat on her desk. She jabs one hand toward the empty chair. You sit opposite her, slowly struggling to read her feelings. Do we get her good? Do we get her good? Your name? As I said, 'tis Zelazel. She stares at you for a moment. Have you prior experience in a noble house? She asks. No, madam. Oh yes, I'm quite experienced. I've been in service all my days. Can you repeat the question? I've experienced throwing eggs at their walls and lifting pies from their windows, if that's what you mean. No, I'll just say no, madam. Just as well, she says, unrolling the fresh scroll. Your inculcation will be all the swifter. Enculturation will be all the swifter. You try to keep your expression blank. Your mate Donald, upon securing a position as an apprentice weaver, was smeared with pitch, wound all about with wool roving, and exhorted to play the sheep while his inebriated new compatriots practiced their shearing. Please don't make this enculturation swift on my account, you think to Maldoro's direction. Consider this, sir, she says, leaning back. There are 1,000 wretches in Brenton who would do anything for a new life under these gracious stones. She waves her hand towards the ceiling in an elegant gesture. From all of them, why should His Grace the Duke bother to lift you from the stumbling herds? You think about Kenkel and the path you want to forge yourself. He shouldn't if he has any sense. I can only let my talents, such as they are, speak for themselves, because I will dedicate myself to his service like no other, for I will bring pride and prestige to his court. I'm going to go with this one because it's the truth. I can only let my talents, such as they are, speak for themselves. Maldorov looks at you. No desire to advocate for yourself, no impassioned appeal, no tearful tale, no cunning connivance, simple submission to my judgment. You take a deep breath. Indeed, you say. You can't control her attitudes, only your own skills, so whatever must be, Phlegm. Nice. Well, 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 she says to herself in pleasure. She takes a moment before continuing. Did I do good? That'll do. Impress Maldoro in as much as anything will impress her. Temperament is passable, she says through pursed lips as she writes. Room for modification, at least. She looks up, not so much meeting your eyes as crawling over your face with her gaze. She leans forward in her chair to stare at the rest of you. Overall, carriage is unremarkable, she sighs. Most importantly, with regard to your performance. Maldora looks at you for a long moment. You possess some of the prerequisite needs of this court, she says at last, grudgingly. In that light, she gives a sharp sigh and digs her quill into the scroll. You are to be made a player in the courtly company of His Grace Duke Rufino, serving entirely at the pleasure of His Grace and me. Maldoro sniffs, fixing you with a hazel stare. For the first time in your life, you feel completely lost for words. I warn you, sir, if it is easy life and comfort you desire, you will be sorely disappointed, she says, lowering her voice. You will be the junior-most member of the company and must follow every instruction of your betters as dutifully as you would the word of His Grace. And if at any time you demonstrate comportment unfitting to the dignity and splendor of the court, or show idleness instead of dedicated self-improvement in your... She rolls her hand in a dismissive circle. Craft, you will be turned into the streets of Port Covens in thrice. I hope this is perfectly clear to you. As she continues, the room feels bathed in light. Your cheeks are hot. To have worked so hard and to driven so far, only to be validated by this, the harshest of audiences you have ever faced, especially when you know that your seasoned peers in the Bard Brood failed. you're going to faint. Embrace the fate, fight the fate, lean on Maldora. Fight the fate. We're not going to faint. We're going to fight, yeah. No, you command yourself, filling up with icy dread, melancholy. Do not ruin this critical moment by succumbing to the vapors. Thank you. You managed before your knees buckle. The physical strain of your journey and the emotional whip-cracking back and forth of the audition are simply beyond your capacity to control. Well, since you seem to be fainting, you might as well enjoy it. You flop over sideways on the stone. My new home, you think with a sigh, feeling the rocks against your cheek. Sometime later, seconds, minutes, several sets of hands lift you up. To his quarters, you hear Maldora say, clearly disgusted. "Ah, but all's well yet," you think, letting your eyes close as they heft you down the hall. You will do the steward proud, and from this moment on you give the lie to your gloomy stars. Aroit thee, foul orbs! You may or may not shout aloud before slipping into a contented doze. And that will go on to chapter 3. And that, I think, will do it for me this evening. That has been the first few chapters of Fool by Choice of Games. I really appreciate everybody hanging out today. But yeah, otherwise, thanks so much. I am, of course, Zelzel, your friendly neighborhood ex-con, ex-atheist, and of course, exactly what the doctor ordered.
Yes, that keeps me up at night. That and the Loch Ness Monster, global warming, evolution, other fictional concepts.
And until next time, have a great day, guys.